back office, front office? Will AI empower or disrupt agriculture retailers and farm supply cooperatives? Welcome to Feedstuffs in Focus, our podcast, taking a look at the big issues affecting the livestock, poultry, grain, and animal feed industries. I'm your host, Sarah Muirhead. This episode is sponsored by United Animal Health, a leader in animal health and nutrition. You can learn more about United Animal Health and how they're working to advance animal science worldwide by visiting their website at unitedanh.com. Joining us to talk about the potential influence of AI on agriculture retailers and farm supply cooperatives is Jacqui Fatka, farm supply and biofuels economist with CoBank. Jacqui, you've completed an analysis of the value that AI can have for agriculture retailers and farm supply cooperatives. Let's talk about that. Let's start by, in the general sense, what opportunities does AI offer farm suppliers?
Yeah, well, CoBank is a major partner in financing a lot of our ag retail space, from your local grain co-ops, all the way through the supply chain. And I think every day we are hearing in our regular news cycle just this expansion of AI and artificial intelligence, and we're starting to use it on our phones and our everyday work tasks. And so I really wanted to dig into some of the ways that ag retailers can use this as a way to really enhance what they're doing, improve operational efficiencies. But the most important thing for them is to be able to serve their farmer customers, and how they can use these tools to simplify things, enhance their offerings, and really just bring together a lot of those tools that aren't quite as scary as maybe they once were, or even as high of a cost as they once were several years ago.
Now, as you mentioned, ag co-ops and retailers, they serve kind of as that critical relationship bridge between farmers and input suppliers. But there's kind of some new distribution models and disruptive technologies in some ways that are kind of challenging that. So it sounds like AI then is an opportunity for kind of the preservation of that relationship that's long existed, and really a way to keep ag co-ops and retailers as an important part of that overall ag supply chain. Is that kind of the way to look at that?
Absolutely. I mean, and that relationship is paramount. You have to have a good relationship. Farmers really depend on that trusted partner with those ag retailers. And so being able to have the best agronomic advice, understanding what that farmer may need. But you can't just enter in all that data into an AI system, right? That relationship is what really matters. And so, say an agronomist goes out to a farm and is talking with that farmer, and maybe they've worked with that farmer for several years. They may know some of the particular nuances of that farm, or what that farmer maybe prefers. And so we like to call it a ground truth of, you may have the AI spit out a recommendation, but that agronomist still needs to look over that recommendation and give that to the farmer. But so the AI might speed things up, enhance things. So that's one thing, right? Just developing the prescriptions. But every time an agronomist goes to a farm, they can hit record and start recording that conversation, track some details, or maybe they can instantly say, what are the open orders for this farmer, and that's another way to do it. Also, we know that there's different scouting that can happen with AI, or weed detection. Those identifying those sense and respond use cases. Like, we know that there's extra heat coming this week, or we've seen some pest identified in this neighboring farm. So being able to reach out to that farmer and say, hey, we identified that maybe some potential concerns could be coming. Would you like to look at that? And again, it's all about bridging that relationship with the grower, your customer, and being able to really lean into, all of the details too, even, knowing that maybe someone just had a birthday, or, one of their kids graduated, right? Like, capturing some of that information to really lean into that that relationship, right? So you see a farmer is calling you, and you can quickly enter into maybe the AI system of this contact, and you may have a whole profile on that particular farmer, and being able to just really lean into that importance of the relationship. It's not just dollars and products sold. A lot of it is an ongoing understanding of who that farmer is, what they like, and also some of those even personal information to really meet their needs and what they need on their farming operation.
So there's value in adopting AI, but how does one determine when to get involved and where to start?
Yeah, so that was one big reason why I wanted to look into this report, because I think, again, back to the fact that AI is becoming more common just in everyday life for people. So there's kind of a lot of different entry points that ag retailers, co-ops, people within the supply chain can start to look at. One of those is just in the front office. The folks who are working on meetings. Microsoft Teams has an ability to, co-pilot, allows, a lot of simplification of writing emails better, maybe writing a job description more specifically, recording your online meetings, or just if you have even a meeting where people are all in the same room, recording that, instantly having key takeaways that are pulled from that, and action items, being able to capture some of that. So, that's one easy kind of entry point, is some of the front office things. Obviously there's some opportunities to, the customer relationship management systems. A lot of those CRMs aren't always designed to really look at the selling inputs and the routine duties of an agronomist. But if we can use AI to help talk to those together, right? But then there's even the fact that we have a lot of times a grain co-op, for instance, has an agronomist and has a team that's working to help that farmer grow the highest yield, best performing on their land, right? But then they're not necessarily working with their grain merchandisers to say, okay, well, we know that this farm is going to have X amount of bushels likely this fall based on all of these variables that we've helped them determine. So then also within your own organization, talking between divisions, helping them identify where things might, how you could say, hey, we just saw a $4 increase, we hit $4 corn or $4.50 corn, let's try to price out some of that, looking at working together within divisions. But then also to the supply chain management. We know that AI can help us identify maybe the most efficient routes on things. If we know that last year we sold X amount of product out of this facility, and we didn't sell as much out of a different facility, but we had the equal amounts at both, right? Being able to shift and identify where we might need to have an increase in supply, or make sure we're ready for that, or back to that identify and use scenarios, right? We see a disease or a pest pressure in a specific area, we want to make sure that our supply chain is ready to meet that too. So having AI helps kind of piece all of those different variables together and put it at our fingertips.
I know some AI tools are free, and some you pay for, but how do you determine what that level of investment should be? And is it best to be an early adopter, or kind of to wait in a little bit and see how things are progressing? Any kind of advice or overall thinking in that regard?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the biggest things that I kept hearing is make sure you understand the privacy of the different tools you're using. We hear a lot about Chat GPT and Grok and some of those tools. The problem is, if you put a customer information in there, that then becomes public. And so what knowing those guardrails and establishing those guardrails within your company is really, really important, to know that if you are going to, practice different things, or input different information, know where it's going. There's a case apparently that a dentist put in all the personal information into a letter so that he could send out something to everybody, letting them know when their next appointment was. And then all of a sudden, all of that personal information was then public. And so, that's one of the most important things is establishing those guardrails, understanding privacy. And then also too, I think finding partners that really understand agriculture. There's the whole
Right.
world is just kind of exploding with different companies who are saying, promising huge ROIs and offering the world, but finding those ag partners that those companies within this AI space that really understand agriculture is really important because you and I know how unique and as well as diverse the ag industry is. So knowing some of those unique challenges within this business system with a partner is really good. And also too, if you're an organization, having somebody within the organization that kind of is the AI point person, being able to help everybody on staff kind of navigate some of the opportunities is also really beneficial to be able to, again, help just ease into this space because the cost is actually gone down quite a lot. There's some tools that aren't very much. There's some ag specific companies that are out there that really do work with you regardless of your size. So, it doesn't have to be a huge cost. Obviously some of those bigger companies are able to capture larger ROIs because there's more opportunity for them to capture those savings. If you're looking at like supply chain management, but in some ways it really does enhance, it kind of levels the field in some ways as well.
You mentioned ROI. What is there something a level of ROI in terms of what you can expect to achieve, or how best do you go about measuring that? It probably depends on how much your adoption is of AI and how quickly you adopt it. But is there a general rule that folks should think about?
When I was talking with people, it really does, as I just mentioned, sometimes those larger companies can see, even 70 times ROI if they really basically if it was able to shine a light on an extreme inefficiency that they didn't see before. You think about supply chain and how it moves, and you're thinking about trains and unloading. There's a lot of opportunity. So it kind of depends on what level of adoption you are, right? So, incorporating Copilot, recording a transcription, right, and key takeaways, you're not going to have a huge ROI on that, right? But some of those supply chains, you're able to see a lot more value. But also too, sometimes it's not necessarily savings. It's just amplifying what somebody can do, right? Like you think about an agronomist, and a lot of times agronomists feel really overwhelmed with all the data that they're trying to capture when they go visit a farm or they're entering things in. And so being able to, they don't have to manually enter it, and having some kind of system that would record, condense, and then, create that, generate that kind of profile of that customer, that saves a lot of time. That probably saves even maybe having to hire an administrative assistant for some of those agronomists, right? So there's varying levels of cost savings, time savings, and sometimes it's not necessarily a savings, but it goes back to how do you better serve your farmer customers, and how do you do your job better? And the other thing too, and we haven't talked about this yet, is we have a lot of turnover in this space too. And so the
Mhm.
relationships and how you really lean into knowing that producer, that grower, having it captured in an AI system allows that easy transition. If an agronomist decides to leave or retire or go to another company, that profile is still there for that next person that they come in. So it helps just augment what they're doing on the ground too. So, you can't really put an ROI on that, but we know how valuable it is because, again, it goes back to how you best serve your farmer customers.
Yeah, there's lots of information and knowledge you can lose when someone retires or moves on. And if you can preserve that, that certainly puts the new person at a good starting point. So it sounds like there could be, I know people always fear this, but in terms of a staffing standpoint, there could be some staffing advantages as well from AI adoption.
It's kind of been a fear and an opportunity, right? And so again, Right now, especially AI is an augmented intelligence, right? Like we still know that there's some hallucinations. We still know that there's some issues. I talked earlier about that ground truthing, being able to have somebody who really understands what is going on and verifying it. We can't just flat out trust whatever is being spit out by these different AI tools. They're getting better and they're improving. So, I think we definitely see that there's opportunities for it to augment our labor, maybe allow agronomists to maybe cover more acres, serve more farmers, be able to maybe have fewer people. But we're challenged right now with meeting all of these labor, filling all these labor spots on some of these, very rural, remote grain locations. And so, there's always a certain level of jobs that may be replaced or made different because of this, right? Like even a drone operator, they are going to need different skills than maybe an operator flying, or a sprayer unit, right? But it's different, but you need both of those skills.
So some opportunities, probably a few challenges, just how you manage AI adoption and execution as you move forward and bring it into your operation. You mentioned, grain operations, but I'm assuming too there'd be a lot of application when it comes to livestock operations, and nutritionists and veterinarians could use a lot of these tools, perhaps in the same way that you're talking about agronomists using these tools.
Absolutely. And it's funny because in the livestock industry, AI has a total different meaning, right? We have to
Right.
know if it's artificial insemination or artificial intelligence. But we definitely, there's a lot of tools in the livestock space that are already helping us know what the animals are they're, if they're almost sick, or their levels are changing. And that's the great thing is there's so many tools that we've started to dabble in the overall ag space, but just the bigger stepping back and seeing how technology worldwide is advancing so fast, we want to make sure that ag is able to participate in this, right? We don't want there to be a digital divide and an AI divide because the ag sector isn't able or willing to dig into this. And one of the folks that I talked to said it so well. He's like, sometimes we're waiting for people. We're not giving the next technology, but we should really encourage our producers, the people that we're servicing, to go where we want them to go, not meet them where they are, right? Like ag is very good about technology adoption, but looking back, they've also been burned in some of these, right? Like bad technologies or technologies that were really costly that maybe didn't have a good return on investment. But now we're starting to see things decrease in cost. The opportunities for everyone in the ag space is really expanding. And at the end of the day, that's going to really be important as we look at somewhat tighter margins, just a constrained overall ag financial environment that is not as strong as it once was. So we need to make sure that we really lean into the technology if there's ways for ag retailers, livestock companies to help that first line, our farmers be able to continue to farm another day, to have that money to continue to reinvest and be profitable, and that just kind of snowballing effect of technology adoption and the ways that it can trickle through the whole supply chain.
Our thanks to Jacqui Fatka, farm supply and biofuels economist with CoBank. This episode has been sponsored by United Animal Health, a leader in animal health and nutrition. You can learn more about United Animal Health and how they're working to advance animal science worldwide by visiting their website at unitedanh.com. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and you have been listening to Feedstuffs in Focus. If you would like to hear more conversations about some of the big issues affecting the livestock, poultry, grain, and animal feed industries, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast channel. Until next time, have a great day, and thank you for listening.